escalating tension between the two countries. On the day Pakistan released the first videotaped footage of its nuclear tests, Pakistan's U.S. ambassador signaled that his country was ready to talk.
Our Prime Minister has renewed an offer of dialogue to India today, and we hope that our Indian leadership will respond with responsibility, because the time has come to cool things. The time has come to sit down on a table and discuss things seriously so that we can pull back from this terrible possibility of things getting out of hand.
Meanwhile, India's U.S. ambassador says talks are possible, but with conditions.
We are willing to discuss all peace and security issues, including the situation arising out of the recent tests. But we feel that in this situation which exists today, to start from the other end and start thinking of third-party mediation and the like, without trying the framework which already exists, would not be the proper thing to do.
India's ambassador also denies Pakistani claims that India is preparing for more nuclear tests in mid-July. Well, for many people along India's border with Pakistan, military clashes are a fact of life, and worries about nuclear weapons don't seem quite so urgent. Here's CNN's Anita Pratap.
Life goes on as usual in Abdulian village in India's Jammu and Kashmir state, even though it is located in a conflict zone. The village is barely 1 kilometer from India's border with Pakistan. The series of nuclear tests in India and Pakistan have heightened tension in the region, but the villagers here are calm.
I am not afraid after these nuclear explosions, nor is anyone else from this village. There is no danger, as there has always been tension here. We are people who live along the border, and we see firing all the time. We are not afraid.
To these villagers, nuclear threats are distant. The real danger is from Indian and Pakistani soldiers who frequently shoot each other. This villager was hit by a bullet a few months ago. Civilians often get caught in the crossfire as they farm or graze cattle in the fields along the border. But the villagers are used to living in danger. 2 India-Pakistan wars have been fought over Kashmir.
We are not frightened by these explosions. If something more happens, we can deal with it. If our enemy throws stones at us, we will retaliate with boulders.
But most people agreed the only way to stop the situation from deteriorating to that level is for India and Pakistan to engage in peace talks. But tensions have to cool down first.
I think there are strong chances over a period of time. I don't think there's something to be seen that, all right, there'll be talks next month or 2 months down the line.
Experts say with the nuclear tests behind them, Indian and Pakistani politicians should now focus on reducing and not raising tensions and creating an atmosphere that can pave the way for resumption of talks. Anita Pratap, CNN, New Delhi.
Ahead on The World Today, President
visited India and came to Pakistan, and that's exactly what he told us. In fact, he went further. He said he found in India a leadership which was very sincere, deeply interested in a dialogue with Pakistan, and a government that is deeply interested in a dialogue with the United States on these very issues. Mr. Bill Richardson did deliver a letter to our Prime Minister from President Clinton, in which this was mentioned, that he had taken up the matter with the Indian leadership. And I think there is also evidence that the President had spoken to the Indian Prime Minister on 1 or 2 other occasions, I think on a telephone. But clearly the Indian government ignored all these things. And I'm sorry to say that it is on record that US State Department officials have implied that India did exercise a degree of deception in regard to its nuclear weapons program. Now, I refer to the question that was raised by my friend from India, whom I've known for some time. If you were to catalog just the statements that were made by the Indian leadership just before the elections and statements made by the Indian leadership after the May 11 and 13 explosions, you will find that almost every reference is to Pakistan. And if you want, I can read out some of those statements to you. I have them with me, and I'll just read out one or two, and then you see the difference. 26 February 1998. The Congress party made a mistake in letting Pakistan control a part of Kashmir. We will correct that. We will take back that part of Kashmir that is under Pakistan's occupation. This is 26 February. 18th March, we are keeping the nuclear option open. If need be, that option will be exercised. Whatever needs to be done will be done. We are not bothered about anyone's objections. Then, India is now a nuclear weapon state. We have the capacity for a big bomb now, for which necessary command and control system is also in place. We have a big bomb now. Our intentions were and are and will always be peaceful. Ours will never be weapons of aggression. We have shown we mean business. Then Islamabad should realize the change in the geostrategic situation in the region and the world and roll back its anti-India policy, especially with regard to Kashmir. Of course, the famous statement that was made by the Home Minister. And then, of course, that Mr. Farooq Abdullah, who was the Chief Minister of the Indian-occupied Kashmir, he, in fact, predicts a fourth war between India and Pakistan. So, you have a whole catalogue of statements where Pakistan was being threatened that India would teach Pakistan a lesson. So China was only used as a ruse. And Mr. Fernandez, when he declared China as enemy number one, I think it surprised just about everybody all over the world. Because even the analysts in the West have commented that there was no threat to India either from China or from Pakistan on the 10th of May. So we fail to understand how India could justify the exercise of its nuclear option the way it has done. Thank you.
George. Mr. Chairman, I wish you could tell us a little bit more about your visit, who you expect to see, what you expect to accomplish. Are you here as an emissary of the government, or are you here solely as committee chairman?
Both of us are here as parliamentarians, and the focus of our attention would be the Hill. We like to have exchange of views with members of the Senate and congressmen, especially those who are dealing with foreign affairs, international affairs, and defense matters. But we may also meet some people while we are here in the think tanks and in the administration. The ambassador is our guide. He's working out a program. But we are not here for any negotiations. It is for explaining our situation and why we were compelled to do this and to promote understanding for that point of view. And we are grateful that you are all here to help us in achieving that objective of conveying our message.
Any reason why you're not meeting with Senator Helms?
Pardon?
Is there any reason why you're not meeting with Senator Helms, who's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee?
You know, your subcommittee deals mostly in detail with the region we come from, so we are meeting the chairman of the subcommittee. If Senator Helms is free and available, we'll be very happy to see him.
Next question over here. Okay. Dave Rue. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, if we could turn to Jammu and Kashmir for a second. It's been a problem since ever, certainly for 50 years. Is any kind of realistic compromise between your country and India, is it at all probable? It's all well and fine to call for a dialogue on it, but the positions are so firmly entrenched on both sides, it's awfully difficult for someone in this country to envision a solution that would satisfy both countries and the pressures that are on both countries, which has been driving them in the directions you suggest. Do you have any kind of an idea how some kind of arrangement could be found?
You know, if you have pre-stated positions, dialogues never proceed. If there is the intention to solve a problem and a dialogue is initiated and friends are willing to support the process, the solutions emerge. But if anybody states in advance that this is the solution we are seeking, then that is a sure recipe for failure of dialogue.
Yes. Do you have any plans, sir, in spite of what you're now saying, to do any testing with missiles?
India has carried out a number of missile tests, and they have missiles of various types which they have been testing over the years. I'm sure you know, you are familiar with all of them: Nag, Trishul, Prithvi, Agni, and now they are working on Surya, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile. Our foreign minister yesterday stated in his conference that we have no immediate plans for any more tests. But, as I said earlier, keeping in view what new situations arise, what action India takes will determine what other action we will carefully consider and take. But for the time being, we have no plans, as the foreign minister stated.
Can you elaborate on what you said about the French proposal? Do you have any information beyond what has only appeared in the Washington Post? In other words, one is to acknowledge India and Pakistan as nuclear weapon powers along with the five, and then secondly, to offer them help for nuclear power. Secondly, I heard the foreign minister of Pakistan yesterday, in which he said that India's word cannot be trusted, India cannot be trusted even if you put it on writing and have a treaty. If that is so, is any purpose served at all in having any talks whatever, because if you cannot trust the other party, even if you sign an agreement or a treaty, and then what's the purpose of having an agreement or a treaty? And thirdly, there was an attack on one of the employees of the Indian High Commission yesterday, and I wonder whether you are aware of that, and whether any steps can be taken in Pakistan to see that whatever differences there are between governments do not spill over to a kind of a mob action.
The French position, of course, I have also seen what has appeared in the press, and the meeting in Geneva will probably come out with some kind of a formula. We will see. I stated in my earlier statement that under the NPT there are 5 nuclear powers. If the NPT has to be respected, then there can't be 6 nuclear powers. But if NPT is to be violated to accommodate a 6th, then it cannot stop at 6, then it has to recognize a 7th nuclear power. That is our position. Now, the foreign minister said India's word cannot be trusted. There is no need to get upset. He was only recording, stating what is already historically known and recorded. On the 5th of January 1949, a resolution was passed in the UN Security Council that the future of Kashmir will be decided by a free and impartial plebiscite under the UN auspices. It was the result of negotiations, months of negotiations through the UNICEF, and both India and Pakistan, although the Security Council resolutions are mandatory, they were asked to give in advance written commitment that they will respect the resolution. And before this resolution was passed, both India and Pakistan gave written commitments. Has that been honored? India and Pakistan, I have just referred, in the second round of negotiations, in June '97, agreed to have discussions on 8 different items in groups. In the September third round, India retracted from that position and refused to have any discussions or groups on Kashmir and security matters. So if the foreign minister was saying these things, there are lots of other examples. I don't want to go into all the details because then people say you are accusing somebody. What makes it necessary that bilateral agreements between India and Pakistan, if they are supported and encouraged by other important members of the international community as guarantors, then they have a better chance of being implemented. We have already seen other international problems being solved where certain major powers became guarantors of the solution. So if 5 permanent members encourage a dialogue between India and Pakistan, and if then certain agreements are reached, they will have a better chance that both will stick to them rather than one or the other side would go back on them. So Foreign Minister was in fact asking the international community that please don't leave us to talk to each other because we don't trust each other. Help us to talk to each other.
The attack on the employee of the Indian government.
I think you are only speaking half the truth. There are attacks on both sides, and this is a very unfortunate development that has frequently taken place, that our citizens or inspired citizens get excited and they take out their vengeance on innocent members of the missions of each other. So if you had stated that there were attacks on the representatives of embassies in Delhi and Islamabad, that would have been the whole truth.
Sir, Chantal Montpoulain, WorldNet Television. Over the weekend, opponents of President Clinton on Capitol Hill have called the nuclear testing showdown between India and Pakistan a massive failure of foreign policy. How do you assess such remarks?
I think the President has been making genuine efforts that the situation in that region should not go out of hand. And I am convinced that any final judgment would be premature because I'm sure he will continue to make efforts, and his efforts will, in the long run, I hope, will be rewarded.
Gentleman in the white shirt. Dave Root with Defense Week. What specifically could the U.S. government and the Congress do to promote stability and reduce tensions between India and Pakistan? And then the second question, would Pakistan have nuclear weapons right now if it wasn't for Chinese assistance?
Pakistan's nuclear program has been subject to so many restrictions since it began that by the force of circumstances, Pakistan developed indigenous technology. Now, what the US and the Congress can do is to understand the situation there, that the real cause of tension in South Asia is the unsettled problems, and particularly the problem of Jammu and Kashmir. And instead of doing the cosmetics of touching the non-proliferation issues superficially, I think the basic issue of conflict in that region should be part of a package settlement which would have a just settlement of the Kashmir dispute and other disputes, and a stabilization of the situation as far as the nuclear standoff is concerned.
So would providing fighter aircraft F-16s and additional arms to help bolster Pakistan's conventional security contribute to stability?
F-16 is an old outstanding issue, and that is being handled separately. It is true that there is disparity between India's military strength and Pakistan's military strength in terms of conventional forces. As somebody said, India even has advantage in the nuclear field. But when you come to the nuclear level or mass destruction level, then advantages are somewhat neutralized. So basically, if you have to denuclearize the region, then the question of a reasonable balance in the conventional forces will become relevant. Pakistan, from the very beginning, never had enough military strength or capability to threaten India, because as you know, for taking initiative in a warfare, you need at least 3 times the strength, at least. Our effort has always been to maintain a credible defensive capability, and we have never even contemplated the possibility of an offensive approach. So we want peace. If peace can be maintained through additional support in the conventional armed forces, and if they want to do it, it would be a positive development. But we are not seeking it. We are seeking understanding, and we are seeking peace.
Ahmed Shakil Mia from Urdu Times. I have a question about F-16s, if it's not too much diversion from the main topic. Pakistan has paid over $600 million for those F-16s. If United States says, take your F-16s, we want to be good businessmen, we have already got the money, and take your merchandise. Now, the fair market value of that F-16 is under $2 million now. What will be the resolution of the balance of $600 million?
It's a very old and a very complex issue, and in this present framework, to answer it would be only a partial answer. And I don't think there is any immediate chance of their being delivered. Therefore, it's a hypothetical question. The ambassador and I were discussing this issue before we came here, but I think in the present framework, the question of the delivery it was tossed around, but it didn't fit into the present scheme of things. We'll come to that question either in political dialogue or hopefully, possibly, through recourse to the sense of justice of the judiciary in due course. I think there is a proposal from the Indian government about no first use of nuclear weapons. What is the Pakistan government's response to that? Also, there was a reading by many analysts that Pakistan would not want to commit itself to a no first use because being the smaller and more disadvantaged nation, they'd want to retain the first strike capability. Is this a correct reading? What is your... India is, I don't know what its plans are, but China so far is the only country that has openly proclaimed the doctrine of non-first use. No other nuclear power has accepted that position of non-first use. This is a new question, and it has to be seen in the framework of peace and security settlement in the whole region. It cannot be considered in isolation. You want to say something?
This is not a new proposal, it's an old one. And here again, you know, it's a question of trust and confidence. Let me make a reference to a chemical chemical weapons treaty that we signed with India bilaterally in 92, and we discovered that there was no declaration. But when India signed the International Convention on Chemical Weapons, there was evidence that India was in possession of. So now you see, here is another example, a very serious example of lack of trust and confidence.
So, Ambassador, are you suggesting that Pakistan won't look at a no-first-use proposal on the suspicion that...
No, it's not a question of looking at it. We will look at every proposal objectively. And we are not convinced that this is a kind of a serious proposal from India. It's a ruse, again a ruse. We believe that the time has really come for the international community to seriously study the situation in South Asia. And I want to be on record that we have not been able to solve one single problem with India on a bilateral basis. Not one single problem. All major problems between India and Pakistan in the past have been solved with the help of outsiders. You take the case of the Indus Water Treaty, it was the World Bank. Ran of Kutch, it was the arbitration in the International Court of Justice. The 1965 war was ended with the help of the Soviet Union, then Soviet Union. 1971, the war ended as a result of, Security Council resolutions, etc. Then we signed a similar agreement. The unfortunate part is that India has not even respected the similar agreement, because under the similar agreement we were required, both countries were required to sit down and find a final settlement of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. I want to know what efforts India has made since 1971 to find a solution.
Let me understand you correctly, Ambassador. You're saying that this no-first-use proposal is a no-no till other problems are solved and till there is third-party or international mediation and guarantee?
Well, I mean, I'm afraid there is, for instance, let me put another thing to you. When we talked about the possibility of a preemptive strike from India on the night of 27th and 28th, now you know there is an agreement between India and Pakistan on the non-attack on each other's nuclear installations. Well, we had very genuine fears. We had credible evidence that India was planning something of that nature. So now, here again, it's a question of trust and confidence. Here is a bilateral agreement which really loses its efficacy in letter and spirit. Even the threat is enough to lose its efficacy. So what we are really looking forward to now is steps by the international community, and if the Big Five wish to take that initiative in Geneva, to address two things. One, of course, is the issue of proliferation. And there our position is that we would look at things objectively, as long as they are non-discriminatory, as long as they do not make a discrimination and distinction between India and Pakistan. We will look at it objectively. The more important aspect is to address the fundamental problems that have caused all the poison and the difficulty between India and Pakistan over the last 50 years. You cannot just simply address the concerns of the West. The West has to also look at the concerns of the people in South Asia. Both India and Pakistan cannot afford war. Pakistan and India are both poor countries. We have very serious problems of development, poverty, hunger, disease, malnutrition. I saw the other day in the Times of India a picture where somebody was carrying a banner that we have no electricity, we have no water, we have no this, we have no that. These are our problems. I think it is time that the international community really steps forward and finds specific answers to our problems. But bilaterally, I can tell you, I want to be on record, there's no hope.
Last question. My question is to Senator Zaki and Afshan from Malaysia. The Foreign Minister Pakistan yesterday made a statement that what was being offered to Pakistan in return for exercising Ukraine was less than even peanuts. You have also made some similar statements. And there have also been some comments in media here that this policy of carrot and stick ultimately proved to be stick only, and there was hardly any carrot. So what were Pakistan's expectations from the United States and its allies and international community which would have prevented Pakistan from conducting its test?
I think that basically Pakistan wanted the international community to ensure that they could restrain India from threatening Pakistan's security or indulging in nuclear blackmail against Pakistan. Pakistan did not ask for any specific favors. Pakistan's concern was that if India had violated the international legality by defying the treaty which had been signed by so many countries, 180 countries or something? 160 countries, then what did they do? So Pakistan wanted a determined action by the international community which would ensure that the security and peace in the region would not be disturbed by a nuclear state which was threatening the security of the area. I don't think Pakistan asked for anything specific, and I'm sure the ambassador would confirm that.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
I'd like to thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very kind
Thank you,
of you,
sir.
Really. Murphy in Coming to America, Saturday at 5 on UPN 20.